Celtics trade, 43% from 3 in the package. Who's out? Imagine that tomorrow you wake up, open Twitter, and the Celtics made the trade. And here comes the question that hurts. Who leaves the cast for this to happen? Because the reality is that no matter how strong the team is, when the attack stops and the three-pointer stops falling, we see the same movie. Heavy possession, contested shot, and the advantage disappears. If you've ever had that feeling of, man, there's one piece left to unlock, you're in the right video. Today, I'm going to show you a realistic trade package that puts a 43% shooter from the perimeter in Boston. And most importantly, who the departure would be, why, and how it changes the team in practice. In 30 seconds, you will understand if this idea is brilliant or if it is a bomb. Let's do it. Before I show you who is leaving the package and how this trade changes the Celtics, quickly, subscribe to the channel now to help us reach the goal of 1,000 subscribers. Not long to go, and when we reach this milestone, the channel gains much more strength. YouTube starts to recommend more. We are able to invest in more analyses, more videos, more frequency, and you receive better content faster. So do the combo. Subscribe, leave a like. Seriously, the like is the push that helps this video the most. And activate the bell so you don't miss the next market bombs. And comment below, just so I know. Do you think who comes out in this swap? Point guard, wing, or pivot? Beauty? So now hold on to this, because the name that comes in and the piece that could come out will divide the fans. Let's go to the video. When I saw that the Boston Celtics woke up this Tuesday, January 6, 2026, occupying second place in the East, the first feeling was that mixture of relief and uneasiness that only those who follow a team every day understand. Relief because even with all the buts, the team is up there. Restlessness because you can't look at this campaign without thinking about the size of the challenge. This is a Celtics that is doing this without Jayson Tatum, who is still out after his Achilles injury and still has the possibility of returning later in the season. And when you combine competitive team with chance to recover your best player, the clock starts ticking. The season doesn't wait. The window doesn't wait. The league doesn't wait. And that's exactly where the conversation about exchanges stops being a social media pastime and becomes a real question of direction. Because the Celtics are not in a situation where they need to do something desperate to save the year. The Celtics are in a situation where they can do something smart to turn an already good year into a special year. However, to do this, the board needs to look at the squad coldly and admit a simple truth. No matter how much the team is winning, there are nights when everything becomes too difficult. You recognize the film. The ball doesn't fall. The attack becomes predictable. The rhythm gets stuck, and suddenly, a comfortable lead becomes a game of nerves. It's that very specific pain felt by those who watch their team compete but feel like there's a missing piece to unlock when Plan A doesn't work. And this season, with so many changes and so many new players in the squad, this feeling could hit even harder. It's not just about talent. It's about fit, about the type of pitches you generate, about who you trust when the game gets tight, about who maintains the standard when the rotation changes. A team can be good and still have a blind spot that always appears in the same situations. And if there's one point that draws attention when we talk about this current Celtics, it's the number of perimeter pieces that have accumulated and how this speaks to two parallel needs: maintaining a high competitive level and at the same time thinking about the financial side and the luxury tax. I'm not the one inventing this topic out of nowhere. When someone like Tim Bontemps puts it on the table that if Boston makes a move, the biggest need may be to get out of tax to reset the recidivism clock and see if they can move Anfernee Simons' contract, it doesn't come across as gossip, comes as a scenario reading. And he also points out the detail that makes everyone stop to think. With a squad so loaded with point guards, adding a pivot would make sense. Then you ask me, but why does Simons become the center of this conversation? Because it is the type of name that represents at the same time potential and dilemma. He arrived in Boston in the exchange that sent Drew Holiday to Portland, and this move already carried a clear subtext of payroll and future planning. And if on the one hand it's easy to look at Simons and see offensive talent, on the other, it's impossible to ignore that the Celtics, the way they are set up, cannot afford to have pieces that don't fit perfectly into the team's identity. Not when the margin for error is smaller without Tatum. not when each game becomes a test of collective consistency. And before anyone gets it wrong, I'm not saying that Simons doesn't fit. Anyone who follows him knows that he has had nights where he showed exactly why he is dangerous. There was a recent game against the Bulls in which he heated up in a way that changed everything, with an explosion in the second half and a shower of three-pointers that put TD Garden down. The point is different. The point is, when the season enters that stretch where each victory is separated by details, you need to choose which details you want to buy. And the Celtics are faced with a choice that every big team faces: keep a piece that can be decisive on specific nights, or transform that piece into something that increases the team's stability night after night. This is where the idea that is circulating comes in, and that I want to talk to you as if we were sitting down, with the game playing in the background, pausing the broadcast just to discuss what really matters. The combined proposal, that exchange with more than one movement, more than one stage, or even more than one team involved, makes sense because the objective is not just to exchange one name for another. It's adjusting the team to two worlds at the same time: the world of the court and the world of NBA mathematics. And then a name appears that, when you read it, seems small next to the noise of the superstars. But when you look closely, it starts to become big. Ayo Dosunmu. If the idea is to open up space in the perimeter rotation and look for a player who combines defense, speed, and shooting efficiency, Dosunmu becomes a very interesting answer. And the data that is making this topic gain traction is simple and very powerful. He is converting 43% of his three-pointers this season. This is no small feat. This is a kind of efficiency that changes the geometry of the game. Now, I want you to notice how this number speaks to the real pain of those who watch the Celtics, because it's not just about hitting more balls. That's what happens to the opposing defense when they believe you're going to get it right. It's the defender who hesitates to help in the paint. It is the most aggressive closeout that opens the infiltration line. It's the extra pass that becomes a clean shot, not a forced attempt at the end of the clock. A 43% shooter is not just a good kicker. He is a bright sign for the defense. If you blink, I will charge you. And when a team already has so many weapons, putting such an efficient threat in the right spot can be what separates a good offense from a stifling one. But the most important part here is not whether Dosunmu is better than Simons, as if the NBA were a row of rankings. The important part is the question that is in the title of our video, and that every fan understands with their stomach: who leaves? Because every trade that looks great on paper comes with an emotional price. You cling to stories, moments, games that remain in your memory. You create expectations, and suddenly, reality forces you to choose. That's where the drama lies. And for me, the conversation becomes even more interesting when you remember the context of the team. This is not a Celtics looking for an identity from scratch. It's a Celtics trying to maintain a top position in the East even without their main name, with a campaign that, honestly, many people wouldn't bet would be so strong at this point. This adds to the quiet urgency, because if Tatum returns up front, you want a squad that not only survived without him, but is ready to step up when he returns. And if he doesn't return at the ideal pace, you want a squad that maintains the standard without relying on miracles. The solution that this proposal suggests, in essence, is an exchange of sensation. Get out of the feeling that the Celtics depend on inspired nights to win big games, and get into the feeling that the team has the tools to impose a type of basketball that is repeated. Dosunmu, based on his profile, promises two things that make sense with the philosophy of a strong team. He can help defend the perimeter, and he can punish spaces with consistency. Shooting threes at 43% isn't just a pretty statistic. It's a way to ensure that the right ball, at the right time, often becomes a point. And then you start to understand why so many people are looking at this as a combined exchange and not a simple exchange. Because perhaps the best path is not just Simons for Dosunmu. Maybe the bill involves relieving the payroll, reorganizing the rotation, making room for an adjustment in the paint, or at least creating flexibility so that the board doesn't get stuck when the entire league starts to move closer to the trade deadline. And yes, the trade deadline is right there on the calendar, so every rumor gains volume, Every conversation becomes a headline, and every hypothesis becomes a video. But here on the Celtics Talk Show, I like to pull you to the side that, to me, matters most. The side of the fan who tries to balance passion with lucidity, because passion says, don't touch what you're winning. Lucidity responds, winning now does not guarantee winning later. And it is in this tension that the best front offices separate themselves from the average ones. The Celtics historically have not been afraid of tough decisions when they believe they are buying a step forward. But every step has risk, and the risk here is clear. You change a piece that can win games on a hot night and bet on a piece that can raise the general standard, but perhaps without the same explosive brilliance. And I want you to imagine yourself in Joe Mazzulla's situation, and I say this with respect to his work, because it's not simple to manage so many variables. You look at your roster and think, what do I need to be true in April and May? I need my team to defend on the perimeter without giving easy concessions. I need my attack to have enough space to not turn into an unsolvable puzzle. I need that when the game gets physical, I have people who can handle it, who make good decisions, who understand their role. And the team needs to be sustainable, including financially, so as not to become a hostage to its own success. That's why I don't see this conversation as, let's change just because. I see it as, let's align what is already good with what is still missing. And if the Celtics can put a player in the rotation who is shooting 43% from three, who delivers energy, who doesn't need the ball all the time to make an impact, that could be a small adjustment that, in practice, changes the game. Because basketball, in the end, is about what you can repeat. And repeated three-point efficiency, especially in reasonable volume, is one of the most valuable currencies in the modern NBA. Now, I don't want this to turn into a sales pitch for the exchange. I want it to become an honest conversation. If the exchange happens, the fans will be divided. There will be those who say that it is moving too much. There will be those who say that it is finally thinking strategically. There will be those who miss what Simons could offer in terms of creation and scoring. And there will be those who are excited by the idea of an even more solid perimeter with someone who can fit in without demanding protagonism. And in the midst of all this, there is the question that guides our video, and that I make a point of putting on the table again, looking at you. Who leaves? Because to bring someone in, you need to make space. And opening up space in a competitive team means giving up some built-up confidence. Sometimes it's giving up minutes. Sometimes it's giving up a name. Sometimes it's giving up an idea. But if the front office believes it can turn the good campaign without Tatum into a platform for something bigger when he returns, then this is the kind of decision that starts to make sense. Ultimately, what I want to leave you with after this conversation is this. The Celtics are in a rare position. He is already strong, even injured. He is already high on the table, even with adjustments in progress. And when a team is like this, the temptation is to believe that destiny will resolve itself. But the NBA doesn't usually reward hope. It rewards planning. A combined exchange that involves moving Simons and targeting a profile like Dosunmu with 43% from three and impact on both sides is not just a change of names. It is an attempt to reduce fan anxiety on nights when the attack stalls and to increase confidence on nights when the game calls for cold blood. And if you follow me here on the Celtics Talk Show, you know that I don't like promising salvation with a trade. I like to promise clarity, and this is the clarity. Any move the Celtics make from now on will have to answer two questions at the same time. The first is, does this make the team better in the playoffs? The second is, does this make the team more sustainable to continue competing? If the proposal that is being circulated manages to answer yes to both, then the conversation becomes really serious. Now, I really want to hear from you, as if we were continuing this conversation after the video. When you think of a Celtics without Tatum holding second place in the East, what worries you most? The attack when the ball doesn't fall, the defense in specific matchups, or the balance of the squad thinking about playoffs? Because from this answer, it becomes much easier to understand who should leave and who needs to stay at any cost. And that's what makes this story so heavy. The Celtics have already proven that they can compete even in survival mode, but now the question is different. Will they just survive, Or will they take advantage of this window to become a real threat for the title? Because when Tatum comes back, there will be no excuses. There will be no, we're still fitting in. The East will come with everything. The matchups will tighten up, and every possession will be a life or death decision. If this trade with a guy who shoots 43% from three happens, it's not just about a name coming up. It's about a message. Boston isn't satisfied with being good. It wants to be inevitable. And then I give you back the question that defines everything. Who leaves the package? Because the piece you give up today could be exactly the piece you need tomorrow, or it could be the piece that clears the way for the Celtics to turn around an unguardable team. Now, if you like this analysis and want to continue in this vein, I left the Celtics analysis playlist in the comment pinned. Click there when you finish here because there is a video that directly connects with this topic: rotation, adjustments, possible changes, and what changes when the team enters playoff mode. Take it from me. If you really want to understand the Celtics, this playlist is the next step. So do this. Finish this video with me, scroll down to the pinned comment, and go straight to Celtics analyses. And tell me, would you make this change or not? And who leaves? Because the next bomb might be closer than it seems.